Firing somebody can have some major impacts in your company. You have to take it with care and professionalism. And if you're anything like me and it's time to fire somebody, you become sensitive to a person's situation, person's lifestyle. Termination is going to impact their family, how the termination is going to impact their finances. There's a lot of things that come along with it that you have to be mindful of. And it's not as easy as people think it is. And there's certain preparation that has to take place. For example, there are 2 things or 3 things that you should prepare for when it's time to let go of somebody. And number 1, you got to make sure that all the documentations are all there. You want to make sure that everything is documented. Everything that was previously documented to the point where you're going to have this conversation. You want to make sure you run it by HR. You want to make sure that you run it by your compliance. You want to make sure that legal's involved. You may think it's the right time to fire somebody, and legal or even HR may say, no, that this is not it. Or vice versa. HR may want you to fire somebody, and you probably have reasons why not to fire the person, and you want to build a case for them as well. So there's a lot of things that come along with it, but preparation is key, making sure that you have the proper documents, everything listed from the time that they underperformed, the time that they were late. So that's step number 1, making sure that all your documentations are there. You're reviewing it before you call them in. And you want to make sure all your ducks are lined up. Second, speaking of calling them in, there is no right time to call somebody in for termination. People like to do it at the end of the working day because it leaves less scrutiny on the company, less scrutiny with the employees wondering what's going on. So you're saving the company embarrassment, but you're actually saving the employees some embarrassment too. But if the person is really underperforming, bringing the morale down in the company, then there is no right time. If you have to pull that person, you just got to pull them. There's no ifs and buts about it. That's just the bottom line. Pull that person in, have that conversation, and let them go. Problem with that is now you're going to have to defer their work. So it's going to be extra work on the other employees or the other staff members. But then you have to go in and explain why you let this person go. Morning time, midday of the operation. You got to let them know, and let them know who's going to be picking up the slack. Unfortunately, they may not like it, but if that employee was bringing the morale down, everybody's going to be satisfied to a degree, or they might be wondering why they took so long, but they don't know that you have to go through all these legal process. You got to make sure everything is documented. You got to make sure everything is properly done. Try to make sure that you review everything, all the documentation there, all the legal stuff is there. And then 2, you try to figure out a right time to do it. It's never really a right time. And 3 is really bringing the team together afterwards. Overall, you try to motivate the people and let them know, like, listen, this is a one-off because the person was underperforming. You don't want them to think that this is just the way you are. You just don't like something and you letting them go. You let them know that, hey, listen, this is a one-off because this person was not performing to their capabilities. And then you just leave it at that. But you got to remind the team that we're going to grow stronger. You're going to get a replacement soon, so nobody's burdened by that person's work. So these are the 3 things that I would recommend for you to do during that time, because I'm going to be honest with you, even the times when I had somebody dead to rights, I mean, I had everything on them. I still found it hard to let the person go, especially if you build a rapport with them, if you had a good relationship with them, but they just weren't performing. That shows as a leader that, listen, you value the relationship over the company, over the business. So you don't want that to happen. But even when I had somebody dead to rights, I would always be considering the financial impact. And what I like to do is say, hey, listen, even though I'm letting you go, you could always apply at XXX company. You could apply at this company. I'd rather them not settle or not be bitter by the fact that we letting them go, but I like to think about their well-being, because even as a leader, when you let somebody go and you had a personal ties with them, you still want to have their best interests in mind. So you want to consider that as well. And those are my 3 tips. If you're struggling with letting people go, if you're struggling with underperformance and you don't know how to let people go, these 3 tips or 3 advice will get you over the hump. And I promise you, it's not going to get easier. As much as people say you get used to firing people, you don't get used to firing people when you build a rapport with them and they actually were performing in the beginning and then they stop performing for whatever reason. You always want to build that person up. But it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes you gotta let people go for the betterment of the team, the betterment of the company, the betterment of you as a leader, to show that, hey, listen, what counts is the mission, and as the mission and the overall team. So that's just my advice, and good luck with everything. Later.